All right, Candice, we are live and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Digital Influence Show. I am the very fortunate host of the show, Brandon Lee, and I want to introduce you quickly here to my guest, Candyce Edelen, because I
Edelen.
did it right. Edelen, gosh darn it, I knew that. Oh, that's awful. That's
This
awful.
happens all the time. Don't worry about it.
I
It's so
know, and
funny.
I was going in my brain going, wait, I just confused myself, but I knew it. And so after all the conversations we've had, I never asked pronunciation until today. But hey, let me tell you all a little bit about Candice, because this is this I love her story. It's fascinating to me. So Candice is a serial entrepreneur, which means my audience knows that's near and dear to my heart. She's, we can compare war wounds and gray hairs and all those things, or at least my gray hairs. But after co-founding a couple of companies in the fintech space, she launched her company, Propel Growth. And that was back in 2007. And she went into the fintech space. But this is where it gets exciting. After 18 years, she wanted to change and she pivoted her company to a new market. And to do this, she had to start over and build a new network. And that's when she looked at LinkedIn and she had amazing results. And so then in 2020, she started working with companies to teach them her approach on using LinkedIn to grow network, book meetings. And here you are now, Candice.
Hi,
Welcome
thank
to the
you for
Digital
having me
Influence
on the
Show.
show.
Yeah, I've been, we've chatted a couple of times now, and you went on your awesome vacation.
Yes.
Um, but I've been excited to have you come on the show because the first time we talked, it was like I felt like I had a kindred spirit. Like we were speaking the same language, we
Me
had the
too.
same goals in using social. But you like to use the term human to human, and I like to then bring it into human to human into digital world. So will you tell us what do you mean by that? What does human to human in a digital world look like?
Well, it looks like being a person, not a bot. I am like so aggravated with the people that are using automation on LinkedIn. It's this kind of pitch slappy approach, and then some people on LinkedIn even use those methodologies, but they're hand typing the pitch slaps, you know. So
Right.
if you think about marketing automation, I mean, we've all used it. I still use it. You use it, um, but it really kind of takes a lot of the human touch out of communications. And so
Right.
I'm a big advocate of actually having a conversation, one person to one person, not one to many.
Yeah. So as we discussed, a lot of sales leaders want to push back on that, and because they want more effort, more stuff. How do you answer that question of more versus what I'm assuming you're going to say is quality?
Yep. So I think it's based on the expectations that we have given the way that marketing automation works. So if you think about it, if you're sending emails to a cold list, like people that haven't come to your list and chosen to subscribe to receive your emails, not to download a white paper, but they wanted to receive your emails, your open rates for that kind of a list, whether you've purchased the list or it's, a list that you picked up because you sponsored an event or whatever, that I would call those cold email lists.
Right.
And, the typical response rates would be maybe a 20% open rate. That's not a reply rate, that's an open rate. And
Hmm.
maybe a 1.5 to 2% click through rate. Again, that's not a reply. That's not a booked meeting. That's just I want whatever asset you're talking about.
Right.
And so to me, I look at that, and if I get, a 3% click through rate, I've doubled my numbers. I'm 100% better, right? Well, if you
Hmm.
take that to LinkedIn, then LinkedIn gets a much better response rate than email. And so they can assume that it's working because they're getting a 3 or 4 or 5% response rate. But the thing is, the way I look at it is marketing automation broke email. I mean, think about it, Brandon. Back in 2000, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I want you to go back just for a second. Don't lose your thought. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I didn't want our audience to get confused. When you say when they go to LinkedIn, what do you mean by that? When they go to LinkedIn, you're comparing email open rates, click-through rates, and all that. And you said, but when you go to LinkedIn, you might get a 3 or 5%. What does that mean to go to LinkedIn? What's the activity there that you're comparing it to?
Okay, so thanks for level setting that. All right, so when you use LinkedIn for lead generation, I'm talking about getting a conversation or a dialogue going in LinkedIn. So you send a connection request, they accept your connection request. You can count that as a click, and they reply to you. That's not a click through, that's a reply, a response. And then if you engage them back and forth via DM, then you can ask them if they would like to meet. If you expect the kind of response rates that you get in email and LinkedIn, those are the wrong KPIs to use. And I think that's why we get so much pitch slapping on LinkedIn, is because we're trying to apply the same process on LinkedIn that we use on email. And we shouldn't. We should expect completely different KPIs on LinkedIn if you're doing outreach properly, human to human on LinkedIn.
Right. So I know your soapbox, and I'm so sorry. You were winding up, and then I level set it to make sure that everybody understood what that meant. I apologize. And Rob's coming back in. Marketing automation did break email, and you were saying that marketing just kind of ruined things. Do you want to continue on that rant?
I look
Thanks
at
for that too, Rob.
It is a rant. It really is.
Yeah.
I'm a marketer, and I participated in the process of breaking email because it used to be that everybody replied to every email. We weren't getting bombarded with 300 emails a day in our inbox, so we could respond. Now it's like we almost train people to not respond. We don't expect them. In fact, some marketers send emails with a do not reply address. So you'll bounce if you try to reply. To me, this is insane. If we want to get a reply and we want to get people to engage with us, we should actually engage with them. But then people take that assumption to LinkedIn. So let me give you a different KPI for LinkedIn. All right. I get about a 76% connection acceptance rate. So that would be a 76% click-through rate, right? And then when people are emailing me when they accept, 71% of those people, this was back in my early experiments, it's much, much higher now, almost 100% of the people that I send a message to on LinkedIn reply to me. That's not a click. That's not an open. That's a reply. And then
it's a conversation.
That's a conversation. And then I invite them to meet with me in person. I think you and I did this, right? And right now, 71% of the people I invite to take a meeting with me, not only say sure, and then I try to spam them with a meeting request and they may or may not show up. I send them my Calendly link and they take the action to book the meeting. So my no-show rate is below 5%.
Right.
And they always reschedule too. So is that even a no-show,
Right. So here's a question I have for you is, what is the difference though between, say, you as a business owner and getting those results and say a SDR or an AE in a company that's doing similar activities?
So it does take some time and some practice to get it right. Even the business owners that I have coached through this don't get it right away. It usually takes several weeks of practice, consistent practice, and looking at the results and looking at the messages and getting feedback to get it right. But in my, I run 90-day accelerators where I coach people on how to use LinkedIn to book meetings. And last summer, 2 CEOs joined the accelerator and realized pretty quickly that they just didn't have the time. In both cases, like a senior person resigned right after they joined the accelerator. So they got too many plates spinning, and the prospecting plate's always the one that drops. So both of them made the decision, excuse me, 2 different companies, they made the decision to hire a BDR while they were in the accelerator. And so what I encouraged them to do was work in tandem with that BDR and actually show up to the meeting so that they could really coach that person in the messaging. And by week 5, I mean, this onboarding process was astounding to me. By week 5, those BDRs were getting above a 50% booked meeting ratio. And the CEOs coaching them on who's a good prospect and who's not a good prospect. So their conversion ratio from meeting to qualified opportunity was actually quite high too. It was well above 25, 30% of the meetings that they were taking. And they just got better and better over time. So if a BDR is receiving really good hands-on coaching and dialogue and can talk through these things, then they can do it. I don't think you can just throw them to the wolves and expect it to succeed, though. But I don't think you can throw a BDR to the cold calling wolves and expect them to succeed either.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Candice, Dom has a question on here, and it's kind of a long one, but I appreciate you, Dom. Thank you for posting it. But I'd love to get your take on this. So marketing, actually, let me go back. This is his first one. Marketing automation strategy is key to qualifying who gets your actual time. The strategy of pitch slapping is very cold. Automation should be used to qualify. Email is part of marketing automation strategy. It should be used in conjunction with other software that makes sense to the campaign. How do you answer that question?
So I am not opposed to marketing automation. I'm opposed to using bots on LinkedIn. So those are very different things, right? In LinkedIn, in the messenger part on LinkedIn, people expect you to be human, to not be an automation. And they get pretty pissed if you pitch slap them on LinkedIn. Email, I think because we broke email, we have more leeway there to have more of a pitchy message on email. I personally send more pitchy messages on email. And one of the ways to qualify, like you're saying, it's a good idea, is, like I just did an event yesterday where 160 people showed up. I don't have time to do individual messages on LinkedIn with all 160 people. So I've asked them to subscribe to an email list where I give them coaching. Right. And then the people who reply to me, those are the ones who get my time. And I asked them to join me on LinkedIn, to send me a connection request on LinkedIn. I got probably 20 people who did that and sent me a message. So I'm engaging with them. So you're right. That did give me the ability to qualify and engage in the people that are interested. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying don't use a bot on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and I think that's what I've experienced is when we start talking about marketing automation ruining things or changing things or whatever with email. And I think, and I get it, right? Understandably so, marketers get defensive,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, it's especially because here's my opinion, and I'm going to ask you what you think about it, is for the past 10 years, and give or take, that's been the hammer that they've had in their hand.
Right. And everything looks like a nail, right?
Exactly. And they've also got into it, and this is leading to a question here. They've got into it that everything has to be data documented and data driven. And so when they look at things like social, there is a bit of a concern of going, oh, we can't document it.
So you can, but it's hard. So the way that I get my stats is I download my data from LinkedIn on a pretty regular basis. And I use similar messaging. So like you want to know how I count my conversions to meetings. I use the same message in almost every time I ask this question. Would you be interested in getting acquainted? And then I'm waiting for them to reply. Here's a tip. Don't send your calendar link with that question. Wait until they respond. It's more human, right?
Mhm.
It's treating them with respect. And so I search in my LinkedIn messages, my downloaded messages for the word acquainted within a date span. And that's how I know how many people I asked if they'd like to meet. And then I go to Calendly and I look at how many meetings I have booked, and there's my conversion numbers. And right now it's 71%.
Now, does just to throw a little bit of questioning at this, I guess, is your Calendly link exposed for other platforms as well, or is that a Calendly link specifically for LinkedIn?
I just use it for LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can.
So even if and what I want to say is I love your numbers and I love you sharing that as a tactic and tool. And I would say anybody that's going, well, it could be this, and maybe there's some people from few weeks ago that are just now getting to it and all these other things.
Yeah, that's true.
It's still 70%.
It's still
Like you're
70%.
right.
They may not book within 5 minutes of me asking them, but I mean, one guy, there's a guy who owns 7 businesses in the commercial real estate tech industry. He's really successful. He's a big name. It took me a year to get a meeting with him, but I still got the meeting. He's been a tremendous referral source for me. He's asked all of his business leaders to talk to me. So was it worth it to spend the year to get that meeting? Absolutely. Also,
Right.
I networked up to him too. I figured out what businesses he owned, and I went after like the head of sales and head of marketing at those companies and learned a lot. So as I was
Right.
reaching out to him repeatedly, I was bringing insight.
Right. So elaborate on that. I mean, we hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you have to give value. You have to demonstrate value. You have to bring insights holistically within your personal brand, within your social presence." What does that mean for people to give insights?
So I'm going to give you 2 different examples because I've changed up a lot since I started doing more training on this. So in 2018, when I did this pivot, just to give you some context on numbers, I didn't have any pipeline in my new market of commercial real estate technology companies. That's who I wanted to go
Mhm.
after. And I also didn't have any knowledge to be able to publish thought leadership, which I've always used as a good lead generation source. So I started reaching out on LinkedIn for to the commercial real estate industry. And over 6 months, I got 500 new connections, 355 of them engaged with me, and 125 booked meetings with me. Now, not all of those were commercial real estate tech companies. Some of them were the investors that the tech companies are targeting, the funds and stuff like that, because I needed to build up my knowledge so I could write about the space. But out of that 125, even though some of them I wasn't even trying to convert, 27 converted into opportunities. In those cases, the way that I got those meetings was it's like, hey, Brandon, I've been talking to other people in the commercial real estate space. I've heard a lot about this data-driven decision making because it was a topic I was interested in, and I was looking for people who were interested in that topic. I've talked to 5 other people in the last week about this. I'd love to share what I'm learning and hear your thoughts. They want to know what their competitors are doing. And so that worked
Mhm.
really consistently for me. But I was being very deliberate. I take a lot of notes. I was aggregating my content and writing about it. So people were taking
Mhm.
meetings with me. Now, since then, one of the things that I've learned is how important your LinkedIn headline is in getting someone to take a meeting with you. If your headline communicates value, then that makes a person interested in hearing more from you. And then your profile. And so I've really, really dialed in my profile and my headline, because now people really want to talk about LinkedIn. So that helps in my case. But I train a lot of people who sell technology. And I find that when we dial in the profile and the headline to really, really speak to the target audience that we're trying to book meetings with, then we look for a nugget on their profile and find some conversation starter that is of interest to that person based on that nugget we found on their profile. And we can get a conversation started with that. The key is, don't try to boil the ocean. Just look for one little nugget that you can have a conversation about. If it's tied to what you do, it's better. But if it says that I love the Beatles on their profile and my husband, Phil, is a musician, he might use that as his nugget. I love the Beatles too. You know, what did you think about such and such? And get a conversation that way. It's about human to human conversation and talking to people based on their interest.
Yeah. Now, did you see my social post yesterday by any chance?
You know, I was so busy with those 160 people. I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, that's good. I know it happens. It's good. I'm okay with it. But my social post yesterday was on that topic of headlines, and one of the things that I said in it was the "I help fill in the blank" headline is dying. It's overused now.
Yeah.
And it's not human. What do you think about it? Excuse me. What do you think about that?
I think that part of the problem is that it makes our headline too long. LinkedIn gives us like 200 characters or something. I haven't even tested how many characters you have in the headline, but only about 53 characters show up everywhere. So if you're using "I help XYZ company," you've lost a lot of that real estate in what people see. Like if you comment or even if you, well, no, if you send a connection request, your whole headline shows. But I think it's valuable to front load, but still delivering a value proposition. One of my favorites is a guy by the name of Paul Monax. He's a financial planner, and he says, "Are you a geek? I help geeks get geeky with their finances." Or, "I'm a geek too, who helps other geeks get geeky with their finances." And I love that profile headline because it makes me laugh every time I see him in a comment. I use it in all my workshops with his permission. I just think it's fabulous. It's fun. It's cheeky. It's getting the value proposition across. It's speaking to a specific audience. I personally, it's my favorite one out there.
Yeah, that's good. What is your headline? Do you mind sharing it with everybody as you talk about headlines?
I have to pull it up. I don't remember what it is because I don't look at it very often, but it's something about I help people. There's a better way to book sales calls and fill your pipeline via LinkedIn. No pushy tactics, no cold calling, no bots. And then I put CEO Propel Growth in it because my title helps my credibility.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So when you're talking about, you've talked about headlines, you've talked about their profile, their about section. What's your take on salespeople or business owners sharing social post or writing blog content as part of their presence?
It's vital. You know, I talk a lot about getting meetings, but part of the reason that I'm able to consistently get meetings and the people I coach are getting meetings is because they're also sharing content that's super relevant to that target audience. And they're sharing native content, not just putting up a post, you know, or I see a lot of people using products like Sociable and other products where someone else curates the content and they just click and it shares. That's not going to get engagement. It's better for you to share your ideas and your thoughts. And one thing that works really well for a lot of people is you have a conversation with somebody on the phone, write up your notes about that conversation and post it, because that's like crazy customer centric. Customer asks you or prospect asks you a question, post the question and and the answer. It's Marcus Sheridan, they ask you answer. You know, it's like it's
Right.
you can't get more customer centric than that. And if that prospect had that question, I'll bet you a whole bunch of other prospects have the same question. So it's a simple
Yeah.
way to find content.
Gosh, you know what? Every time we talk, I say how so aligned we are in such a kindred spirit. And here's my questions book. I'm old
Yeah,
school, but I write down every question that people ask me because I go, that is marketing, that is, messaging gold. That
yeah.
is content gold. Yeah.
Every time we do a webinar, we grab all of the Q&A, and I've got like 3 pages of notes of questions that people have asked that I'm still working through to get content posted.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Rob is, we got to give a shout out to Rob. He's
Hey,
been
Rob.
power user with us today. So I'm so glad you said it's vital, Candice. People follow people, not companies. People buy from people as well. Premium Angel is a program. Yeah, absolutely. Rob, thank you so much for sharing in here as well.
That's a great
I
comment.
Yeah, Rob is awesome. I had a call with him last week, and I think we have another one scheduled because we have been humans inside of a digital world.
And I think
So,
you
Candice,
made a really important point, Brandon, that I want to make sure the audience is hearing. You're having a conversation because you enjoy having the conversation. Don't book meetings for introductory meetings to sell to people. Book them to get acquainted and build a relationship. You'll find opportunities to sell, but if you try to move too fast, you'll chase them away.
so how I love that, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I will give you the question that I get asked a lot as well, which is, or the comment with the question. The comment is, we don't have time for that.
Right.
And the question is, how does this book meetings and move the needle?
Yep, it does. And I mean, okay, so I want you to put yourself, because when you're networking on LinkedIn, all right, LinkedIn is a networking platform. It's a platform,
Wait, what? It's a
right?
what? It's a what?
So I want you to imagine that you are at a conference and you walk up to somebody that you've been wanting to connect with and meet, and you finally find them. Are you going to walk up and just pitch them? Or are you going to walk up and start a conversation? And somebody told me a story. It's a classic example of why you shouldn't do this. So they were at a conference, real story, like true story. They're at a conference. There's like 3 guys standing having a conversation. This woman walks up to them and interrupts their conversation and pitches them, and then hands her card to each one of them. Are you the one that told me this story? You are.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, go right ahead. Keep going.
You told me this.
I love this story. I was just
I'm telling this a lot lately. So you finish the story.
No, please. You tell it better. And for my audience, you now understand why Candice and I are become fast friends and kindred spirits and speak the exact same language. But please go right ahead.
It just dawned on me as I was telling you, like, wait, Brandon told me this story.
That's all right.
So then you guys all, like, after the lady walked away, you just like, you put your hand out, right? And said,
Yeah.
who wants a trash can? And you all threw the cards away.
Yeah.
That's what we act like on LinkedIn. Don't act like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's please use that story as much as you want. And you can actually say there was like 5 or 6 of us.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
yeah, and her, as she was back down, she like kind of, oh, excuse me, and like kind of went in the middle of us and did her pitch, and then put cards in all hands, said, oh, just remember, if you ever think of da 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 industry, think of me. And okay, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, and walked away. And we're like, no, you exactly meant to interrupt.
I love that.
Was,
I didn't mean to interrupt. Are you kidding me?
Right. Like, that's exactly what you meant to do. And that's exactly what people mean to do in social media. So let me ask this question as well. So companies that are pushing that, send the connection requests, send the pitch, give the calendar, more. How do you address that when that's the sales playbook for somebody that's a prospect of yours that you're having a conversation with?
Show me your KPIs and I'll show you mine. You're
That's
not
it.
going to get meetings with people. It doesn't work. And if you get 2 or 3, I love I love it. I'm reading Rob's comment there. That's funny.
Yeah.
But I forgot what I was saying.
I'm sorry.
It was so
Rob,
awesome.
it's your fault. It's Rob's fault. We gotta just bring Rob on the show.
Seriously.
You were saying I'll show you my KPIs if you show me yours.
Yeah, if you're getting more meetings than me, go for it. And if they're quality meetings, but I don't want to just see the meetings. I want to see the conversion to opportunity. And if you're not getting and I don't need to just show you my meetings, because in our accelerator, I keep score as we create a little competition. There's a scoreboard that everybody reports to every week about how many connection requests, how many connections did they get, how many people did they invite to meet, how many meetings did they get, how many of them converted to opportunities, and did you get any deals done through LinkedIn? So I have the numbers. I'm tracking it for 12 weeks. I can show you other people in other industries, because people will go, oh, well, yeah, but you're selling LinkedIn. Everybody wants to talk about LinkedIn, which is kind of true. But everybody else isn't. They're selling ERP. They're selling me, Rob, they're selling managed service provider services. They're selling coaching services. And they're getting, by week 8, above 50% in booked meeting ratios. So, show me your numbers. Let's compete. Let's have a little contest about that. I bet you I'm going to win. And if I don't, then teach me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, one of the things that I think works well too is, give us 2 or 3 people in one of your courses and go through a pilot with them and then compare their numbers to other people's numbers.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've said that more than once.
Yeah. This isn't rocket science. It's all about being human. It's about communication. There's nothing in what I teach that is something suddenly brand new. It's what we learned in Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people.
Look what I just picked up, the new one.
Oh, wow.
I haven't read the new, well, it's a new edition, updated.
Did they update it? Oh, I might go get that.
I just got it yesterday, which is good because I think my older version, my wife, when it came in, she looked at it. She goes, how many copies of this book do you have?
I have 3.
I think I have 3. And then I rebind because I give them away.
Yes.
Because it is the core. So Candyce, thank you so much. Candyce Edelen. Oh my gosh. I even wrote it down. Oh my gosh, Candyce, my go-to would have been Edelen. I thought, oh gosh, this is a horrible. We got to edit all kinds of stuff. I need to send you a bottle of wine or 3 or something for this. This is embarrassing. But anyway, Candyce, before we go, tell everybody where they could find you. Tell them, just give them the little pitch about Propel Growth, and let people know where they can find you specifically.
Okay, thank you. So find me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest place. I'm Candyce Edelen, Candyce with a Y. I'm the only one out there. So if you look for me for Candyce with a Y, Edelen, you'll find me. And the Y's in the first name, not the last name. That's another common mistake. And then you can also go to propelgrowth.com, just propelgrowth.com, and you'll find our courses. We train people on how to book meetings on LinkedIn. So I've got workshops and courses, and then our 90-day accelerator starts on July 12th for the next one. But I'd love to talk with you if you want to know more. And Rob, you're awesome. Thanks for all of the comments.
And Rob, you're right. I think, Rob, you'll have to help me convince Candyce Edelen to come back and join me again. And the only excuse that I might have is that I was actually speaking La Spanish this morning, and maybe I just, the different pronunciations on I's and E's have just gotten stuck in my head or something like that. I don't know.
Fair reason. I can't do that. So that's amazing.
Yeah, so we'll see. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Well, Candice, thank you so much for joining, and for everyone listening, I'll put all of, or we'll put all of Candice's connections. We're going to put information on her accelerator in the show notes on the podcast. We'll put them in the messaging on side in the YouTube channel, and we'll put it on our blog. You guys, you know the drill. We put it everywhere, and we want you to connect with Candice because she's awesome. And so, thank you everybody for being a part of the Digital Influence Show today. And Candice, will you come back and do this again where I can feel like I'm on my A game?
I would be happy to. It was a fun conversation. I've loved it.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's ever mispronounced your name so many times in one episode.
Okay,
But
funny story. I've worked with a coach and a mentor for, I don't know, 15 years, and he had me on his podcast and he mispronounced my last name. So
okay, well, there's hope for me.
we laugh. I laugh about it. It's no big deal.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you for being a part of the Digital Influence Show, and we will see you next time. Take care.